Yeah.
Why don't you go check out Brady to see how he's doing in his department?
No.
No?
Yes.
No?
Brady is a fireman.
Yeah, it's pretty important. The fireman's job is pretty important on startup. How the plant's doing and all that.
All right, that's as dry as that's going to get.
Okay, yeah, go for it, Alex.
What you got up there is a mechanical computer, and that is the
You guys heading out?
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
Hey, good to see you. I got your card, right? I'll start again.
Yeah, we're rolling. We're rolling. Hang on. Hang on. There's Rocky. He's leaving with his buddy.
I got your card, Rocky.
He's a steam guy.
There we go. All
right, give it hell, Alex.
All right, so what you're looking at up there is a mechanical computer. That is a Pickering-style centrifugal governor. It's just Pickering is one of the thousands of manufacturers and styles. And what that device is basically you have those balls on springs, right? And the springs form linkages. The faster the balls spin around, the more they are inclined to fly to the outside and pull out. Like when you're in a car and you go around a corner and you get thrown to the outside of the curve. And the governor is arranged so that when the balls begin to fly outwards, it pulls that rod on the inside to close the steam valve underneath it in that spherical body. Now that's the first part. There's another interesting part to this, which is the automatic overspeed and melt snap. So this idler that's hanging there on that rod is attached to a ratchet wheel. To operate the engine, you have to wind up the ratchet against spring tension, and that will allow the governor to operate normally. But if that belt drive snapped for any reason, without that feature, the governor would stop spinning, the steam valve would open all the way up, and the engine would run away, and if you weren't there to catch it, you could have flying pieces and flying wheels and all kinds of other horrible things. So if the belt snaps, that arm drops down vertically, trips the ratchet, which unwinds rapidly and slams the steam valve closed, and the engine will stop running instantly if it's working properly. And Brian has gone through that, governor, so that it does in fact do that. Phil, you might want to up the drip rate on the big guys and the other one because that one isn't feeding at all.
I go for it.
Very simply, this gauge shows the pressure of the boiler about 25 psi underneath the safety valve. And this is a chest gauge which shows the pressure in the steam chest. So you see it's quite a bit less than in the boiler because Phil has the throttle cracked. Phil, can you demonstrate that by just giving it a goose?
Goosing.
Yep. Now you got to go more than that. Yep, see it go up and then close it?
Yeah, I see it.
Close it off. There you go.
Yeah.
So you see, because there's
Perfect.
no load on the engine, it takes very little to make it move. Now you'll see also, Phil, can you up the speed again? All right, watch the governor. You see the balls are in the in position right now. When he gets it going faster.
Won't quite see them come out all the way. It's hard to
No, they're coming out. You can see it on the video.
Yep, you see that. So that's the governor doing its adjustment automatically. So the input of the computer is the speed of the engine, and the output is the position of the steam valve. It's the simplest form of computer. So that clattering noise you hear, you'll notice you only hear that when he closes the throttle. That's because the slide valve is this archaic type of steam valve. It's pressed up against its face by steam pressure. When you open the valve, it seats the valve. When you open the throttle valve, it seats the steam valve against the face nicely. But when you close the throttle and let the engine coast, unless there's a return spring behind it, the valve will actually come off its face and rattle around. So when you slow one of these engines down, you want to sort of do it gradually to always keep enough pressure to keep the valve against its face and make sure it doesn't clatter around like that, because that'll score up the valve and the valve tips. It's not going to happen immediately, but most people...
I can make it happen.
Don't overfire it. Do not overfire it.
So
Go ahead, Alex.
A lot of people, especially people that watch movies where there's boiler explosions and stupid things like that in Hollywood, wonder, well, what stops the boiler from getting too high in steam pressure? Right, this boiler's original working pressure is 150. Until we change the flue pipes and what have you, we're running at about 125. There's a device called a safety valve. This here. All right, we tested that several times, it works reliably, but what that valve is basically a valve that is opened by the steam pressure underneath it, and right now it's held shut by a spring. There's a spring in this portion, an adjustment in that portion, and this is a trip lever so you can open it manually and test it. This is the actual valve disc in here, and the openings are on top. When when the valve lifts, the steam pressure underneath the disc overcomes the spring pressure and opens it a little bit. And as soon as it opens a little bit, there's a chamber called a huddling chamber where the steam cloud enters and suddenly exposes much more valve surface area to the same pressure, which forces it open very rapidly. So you're going to see that valve lift when we hit 120.
Are we testing that now?
Yep, it's going to go up, so let's wait for it to get up to there.
So one curious thing to watch for is what we talked about shrinking as well.
Yep.
That safety valve lifts. Technically, demand on the boiler is increasing. So
Yes.
that escaping steam is going to make the water level go up.
So in order to protect it from priming, I'm going to reduce the throttle. This is the valve beginning to lift. See how it opens all at once and then closes all at once? That's because of that chamber that
Yep.
exposes
Perfect.
the valve.
Perfect test of the safety valve.
Yep. So that's what we wanted to see, and we didn't prime it because we had the water at the right place. So now the next thing to do is test the injectors. Now these things are really it's got the dampers closed, but here's what an injector does. Let's see if it'll pick up first.
Go ahead.
You have a steam valve open?
Not yet.
Picking up?
Yep. There you go. So what this is an incredible device. I'll wait for that safety valve to calm down.
All right, hang in there.
Yep.
When you're ready, Alex, talk about the injector.
So this thing here, we talked about it, we hit on it before, but this is how it works. It's a water injector. It's a brilliant invention conceived in the 1850s by a psycho Frenchman who decided one day, I'm going to build the world's first powered steerable aircraft, which was a steam-driven airship with a 3-horsepower marine engine attached to it. And I'll give you a picture of that to put in the video because it's amazing. And then after he did that, he turned around and invented this. This is a device which uses the velocity of steam to inject water into the boiler. Now the mystery of it that a lot of people seem to have trouble with is that you use steam from the boiler to feed water into the boiler. The pressure here entering the device is the same as the pressure it's fighting to put the water in. And you think, well, if you have the same pressure on one end and the other end, nothing's going to happen. It's not entirely true. This injector right now is empty. It's full of air in the atmosphere. It's open to the atmosphere through this overflow. You have a cone, steam cone, which is a convergent cone. After that, you have an open space where water is allowed to enter through the water valve. After that open space, you have a convergent divergent cone called the combining cone or the mixing cone. There's all kinds of names. Names aren't that important as long as you know how the things work. And then after that is another open space with this cavity, which is just open to this empty hole here, this overflow. After that space is a final cone, which is a divergent cone called the delivery cone. The way this works is you admit steam to it at high pressure, and the steam flies in there at a very, very high speed through the convergent steam cone. And it enters the space where the water can flow in. And the first thing it does is it blasts right out the overflow because that's the easiest path to leave the injector is to atmosphere. So it's going right from the boiler and out. And what that does is it creates a vacuum in the water space called a lifting injector. And what that vacuum does is it sucks water from the water source up into the injector and fills that space with water. As soon as that happens, a very interesting thing begins to occur. The steam flying into that injector hits the cold water and immediately begins to condense. The condensing steam collapses. Steam, making water into steam, the volume increase is about 1,600 times the volume of the water. Same thing happens here. When you have the steam hit the water and condense, it wants to contract to a 1/1600th of its size. It becomes very, very small. And that produces an incredible vacuum, immense vacuum, much more powerful than just the steam jet through the body can produce. The vacuum forms in front of the steam cone. and it draws the steam out of the boiler through the cone so fast. It gives the steam and water mixture enough momentum to actually overcome the space in the overflow, the delivery cone, the pipework, and the check valve, and get it to force into the boiler. So it isn't anything having to do with making additional pressure. It's additional velocity. You do get additional pressure from the increase in speed you get from the pressure differential created by the condensate vacuum. And the reason why most injectors will not work on hot water is because hot water from a delivery source will not as effectively condense the steam flying out of the steam cone. The vacuum produced will not be great enough to create the extra speed to get the water in the boiler. That's why most injectors cannot handle hot water. As it so happens, some injectors were designed with very interesting features like this Metropolitan, with things like moving steam cones. This injector actually has a cone inside it that moves back and forth through the pressure differential. This can optimize the geometry of the injector to work on hot water in certain cases. The way you start an injector is very simple.
You're going to show us working?
Yep.
Hang on.
Steam feed.
All right. Open up the steam feed.
Steam feed from the turret is all the way open. We leave it open, right? This is the steam valve that shuts it off. It shouldn't leak. This is the water valve.
Gotcha.
In order to allow the injector to fill itself with water, you want this as far open as it goes so the injector isn't struggling to fill itself with water. We're going to open the steam all the way, fill the injector with water, and begin that condensation process and force to the boiler. You can tell the injector is running by the first and most important thing is that there is no water out the overflow. If there's water out the overflow, you either have too much water in the water valve trim and you have to reduce the amount, or the injector is not picked up. The second thing is you hear this jet-like sound, sometimes a chirping sound, and you can hear it in the pipework. And the third thing is you know it's drawing water because right up to the injector body, you'll feel a cold spot. That's how you know that cold water is flowing in. That cold spot is what's facilitating that condensation. Of course, right above it, it's so hot you can't touch it. But as long as you have the cold spot, you know it's working. The way to shut it down is exactly the opposite. Steam off, and then water off. And it's as simple as that when they work right.
Okay, show us how we check the boiler water now.
Right. So, Phil, do you want to do that? All right, well,
somebody shows.
But you can hear me. A slight leak will get the glass full when you shut the top valve. Now we're going to blow just through the water valve. There's nothing flying out, there's no intermittent flow, and you can see the level in the glass bounces freely, very quickly. That's how you know the glass is reading correctly. Some of these housings have these little safety balls. You have to be very careful because balls are there if some idiot runs up and smashes the glass. The balls will seat immediately and stop this big explosion of steam and water from coming out. On those types, this type doesn't have these, but on those types, if you open these valves all the way up, like you'd be naturally inclined to do, the balls can actually fall into the seats in certain cases, especially on top, and stop the glass from reading. So it's always good to turn them in a couple turns and make sure you're still reading. So that's the way you properly clean, blow out, and judge the level in a water glass.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't like how mean they are. Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like. Well, we're gonna take an edible the night before you came here. Freak out.
Want a whistle? All right.
Go for it, Phil.
All right, guys.
Nice. And we got the chicken finally started, fellas. So this is the first batch going. We got this, what's left of our crew here. And the steam engine is going good. The weather is perfect. Beautiful day. And we're just keeping on. Alright, Phil, give it hell.
That's so cool. You brought an alternator?
Okay guys, we've just been running for hours here, just enjoying it and making some tests. We just got a alternator that we can run on this to make some electricity. And we'll bring that to you in a future video. But for right now, everything is going super smooth. And everything is working just as we expected it to.
Now we've got it or induce.
Okay guys, we're still running. Alex has brought some of his antique lanterns because they're going to pull an all-nighter or whatever. I don't know what they're actually going to do here. Give me some good news, Phil. What's going on?
Well, the ritual starts around 9 o'clock, so be sure you're there for that.
Absolutely.
I don't want to miss out on That's my favorite part of the night.
So Alex has gone to get some pizza. They are going to let the engine run a little bit more. What are you gonna blow down at today, Phil?
I say when it gets started.
What's the pressure gonna be? You giving a high pressure blow down? Are you gonna do a high pressure blow down or no?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna let it get down to 190, 198, whatever.
Okay.
That range.
Then you're gonna blow down?
I'm gonna let everything settle to the bottom of the mud and let it blow down.
Okay. We'll be back for hopefully to blow down. But right now, Alex has gone to get some pizza for these guys. I'm heading in the house to get something to eat, and we'll be back with you in just a little bit. Okay guys, we've been running all day. Alex has got some lanterns set up, and we're gonna do a blow down. Alex, tell us what we're gonna do now.
Alright, so blowdown is an essential part of the working cycle of any boiler, no matter what type it is. But what we're going to do is open these valves so that all the stuff that accumulated over the course of the day, any rust flakes, sediment, impurities in the feed water, whatever, they will have settled to the bottom here. And we're going to blow them out and skate them out through this pipe, which will also, under pressure, drop the boiler water level a little bit. So they're going to be watching the water level really carefully.
Okay.
We're going to go fully open and fully closed. So
Alright, let me check the pressure here.
Excuse me, let me establish the water level first.
yeah, it's important to find out what your water level is before you do this.
Alright, go ahead.
Alright, blowing down at 105. Go for it, Alex.
Yeah, so one thing is, always, like I said before, open and shut slowly, because opening and closing a blowdown valve very quickly will produce tremendous stresses on the boiler sheets where the pipe attaches. The other thing is, too, with this, until we get this pipe anchored, you have to be careful how much we open, because the reactive forces of the end of this pipe at 90 degrees, like a rocket engine, produces a big torque on the pipe, and you don't want to snap something off, because that would be kind of a disaster. So we didn't go full blast on that, but we did get some things out, little bits and pieces, but that's normal for one of these. And besides that, everything's running okay. Where are those drawings? I was going to show you another one. Box into the boiler, which I showed you before in the drawings. See, this is where the fire gas is, and we've got a very clean fire right now, so you can't really see anything coming out at all, except for maybe the fire at the other end of the tubes, that orange light. But these tubes, right, are how the gas escapes from the fire, and they get pulled up the chimney by the exhaust jet, and you can hear it in there. You access the tubes to brush them and clean them of ash and soot from this end, but the way they're put in is interesting. I've drawn, this is the tube sheet, the front end of the boiler pressure vessel, and this is a tube cut in half that's expanded in. I'll close this door again. You see before I do how the ends of the tubes are rounded over? That's called beading or sometimes processing, but it's basically a way to safe end them. Just a sec. So the reason we do that, if you do it both ends, it makes the tube kind of a stay bolt. It's not entirely necessary though. The act of expanding does that itself, and you do it mainly on the firebox end. If you have tube that's proud of the sheet by a long way, even half an inch, it'll overheat and melt, and you can actually crack the tube joint as where it's expanded. So if you beat it over and press it against the sheet that's transferring its heat to the water, you run much less of a risk of doing that, and you can fire the boiler much harder. On the smoke box end, it's not necessary to do that. But that's what that is, and the way it works is you put this tube in, which is just a snug but loose fit in that hole with just a little bit of room to move, and you put this tapered rotating device called an expander in there with balls like a ball bearing, and it squishes the tube out on both sides of the sheet. And then you have a separate tool which looks like a little hook with an impact gun, and you beat over the end with that tool all the way around. And that's how you put in a new flue pipe in one of these engines.
But right now we're looking pretty good on the flue pipes.
Yeah, we got a few more years in them at least. And what you'll look for with these really, the normal way with these antique engines is look for one tube joint or something to start leaking, and then you'll know it's time to replace a set of flues. So whenever that happens, we'll have to get you an expander and go to town.
Okay, go for it.
So before I had a dead seltzer bottle, the demonstration didn't work very well, but this is an example of shrink and swell. Here's a throttle valve on a boiler. See that? So the mean water level, even though most of its bubbles, will rise if you suddenly demand steam. The pressure over the water volume will drop, and the bubbles in the water volume will suddenly expand and fly to the surface, and the water will shoot up in the sight glass. And if it shoots up too far, it'll go up the pipe and into the engine or turbines or process heat exchangers or whatever, and you can have a serious problem on your hands. And conversely, can't really show it to you with this, but if you have a high steam output, like your engine's going full blast down the power plant, and someone shuts the throttle, you'll see the water in the boiler be up high where you want it, like half or so, and then you'll see it plummet down into the bottom. And so you have to work with your engineers and firemen, especially if you have a big plant with all sorts of things all over the place. You'll get the same thing in locomotives, you'll get the same thing in boats and what have you. So watch that shrink and swell. You can use it to your advantage, but it can really screw you up if you don't know what it is or that it will happen. Yes, exactly.
Okay guys, we're into the night right now. There's Alex's lanterns, shining bright.
People are screaming in the distance, getting murdered.
People are screaming in the distance. I don't know what that's about. Phil has raked the coals out. We have shut the engine down, and we are just about ready to call it a day. And we're just going to let it come down slowly overnight. Okay, anything you guys want to say?
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. It's time to melt.
Thank you guys.
Nice engine.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Here's to the next one.
Yeah. He'll be in the building by then.
Next time she's going to be sawing logs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When do you think, I mean, I know you're busy as fuck. When do you think you might actually try that?
Depends how many more times you guys come and help me.
Alright, what are you guys doing next Monday?
Nothing.
School. Oh, screw that.
I'm free.
Just depends, and we got to set the blocks, and we got to get the track in. We got to get the engine back there. We've got to tidy up a few little things on it.
Yeah, getting the engine back there will be the most delicate part.
Yeah, that's going to be delicate, but we'll get it back there.
So let me show you once the wick freeze.
And you said, yeah, you want to pull it apart and get it cleaned and
Well,
painted
steady
anyway.
once the race.
Yep, we're gonna get it painted up, but I mean, we're gonna run that sawmill before we. I mean, we're gonna give it a shot because we'd be too close.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're gonna run it a little bit and see what we can do.
It'll do.
Yeah, we're gonna try it out.
It'll
So
fucking do.
we're gonna end this one here, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video. Hey guys, here we are, very early the next morning. We stayed pretty late into the night. We let the boiler come down real slow. You can still see some steam coming off the water. I am draining it out today. I'll take you around there. And we got very nice, very clean water coming out. I think we finally have all the junk out of there. We did a lot of blowdowns when we were cleaning this thing and prepping it. A couple high pressure blowdowns yesterday. Now we're just draining the water. It's still, boiler's still warm to the touch. The water's warm, probably like bath water. So now I'm going to take things off, like the gauges. Gotta get that whistle off there. I've got to get the chimney down. I got to make a new chimney anyway, but I'm going to take off some of the things that aren't really necessary right now because we're going to start prepping to move this out into the back where the sawmill is. So we'll get it drained, we'll get it dry in there, we'll take some hand holes out and get it prepped for moving. So that's it. I meant to bring this video out to you yesterday, but it just didn't work out. We got late, and then I just didn't have time to do it. But here it is the next day. Okay, so we found out what was wrong with the injector here, the Penberthy. It is missing some parts inside, so I'm looking for another 1-inch Penberthy right now, or another Metropolitan. That one works real good. Our gauge here was giving us some grief last time, but that is, I got some new packing, top and bottom, and that is sealed up nice. It's working good. So we will get ready now, like I say, to move and test out the sawmill, and then hopefully get cleaning and painting everything. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think those guys that were helping yesterday will come back and help out a little bit and help me get to the finish line with this thing. But it is running super nice and just what we were expecting and hoping for. So this is it. I will just get it drained, and I'll say it again. Thanks for watching, and this is it for this one. I know I said last night we were going to do it, but this is it. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.